Hello. Usually, when I open a video from this angle, I'm building up to some sort of dramatic noise, leading sentences with long pauses before I then reveal a scream from a 5.2 litre naturally aspirated V10 or a straight six engine with throttle bodies, building up to some sort of noisy event. But I won't be doing that today, not for this video. Because in this video, we're driving a Kia EV6. Now this is a bit of a change from the norm for us because, I'll make no bones about it, I take pride in the fact that we're able to review the good stuff, the fast stuff, the noisy stuff. And whilst this isn't the first EV that we've ever tested, it's probably the, forgive me Kia, least exciting. But there's logic to that. This is a Kia EV6. It's an EV6 GT-Line rear-wheel drive. And in the range of Kia EV6s, it's probably one of the lesser exciting ones. It's also one of the cheaper ones, but it's the one with the highest range. Now I have to admit, this as a car hasn't been on my checklist of cars that I really want to review. I've not had a real hankering, a real desire to go out and drive a Kia EV6. But lots of my journalistic friends and media colleagues have driven a Kia EV6 and they've all absolutely raved about it. So I wanted to see what all the fuss was about. And I've been driving this Kia EV6 for 6 days. And I thought on my 7th day, I'd do some filming with it. Because I have to say, I think I finally figured out what all the fuss is about. So, let me go and put some charge in it, get it plugged in, and I'll talk you through some of the features that I've learnt with this car. Okay, so we've arrived at a fast charger, 150 kilowatt fast charger, so this should give us plenty of power now. Let's have a quick look at what we've got so far, what we're starting out with, and then we'll see what we're rewarded with after half an hour or so of getting plugged into this. Okay, so we've parked up. As you can see, we have 45% in the battery and at the moment a predicted range of 98 miles. So let's get plugged in and see what we're rewarded with. Insert or tap, yes. CCS. Aha. CCS. This is going very well. Let me get my phone. Aha. Authorized. Success. So now we simply grab the big chunky plug on the big chunky cable and plug it in to the big chunky hole. So that's it locking into there. You can hear some clicking and relay noises happening in here. A big fan starting because obviously this generates a lot of heat. And then any second now, should get a notification in the car to say that we're charging. And we are. Okay, so we have currently 45% in the battery. The car has communicated with the charging point and has relayed that information. This being a fast charger, 150 kilowatts in here, this is saying that we'll actually have a full battery in just 49 minutes. Now, here's the thing, I reckon it's actually going to be a lot less than that because what happens is the system gives a prediction according to who else is using the charge stations. At the moment, we are the only car here. If another car comes and plugs in, then that might change things. It will reduce the power output. But right now, we get all the power that's available from this charge station that's going into the Kia. We'll have a coffee, have a little wait, and see how we get on. So not only do we have the big machine telling us where we're charging, we have some information here on the dashboard, so if you're sitting in the car you can keep an eye on the charging rate. Now this being a fast charger with 150 kilowatts, interestingly at the moment we're only being rewarded with 49 kilowatts. I'm not entirely sure why. Oh, we're going up, 53, 54, so that's going to go up hopefully as it realises that we are the only big draw locally. Here's the other interesting thing as well, 22 minutes to 80%, so that's a really handy thing to know, knowing that if we sat here for 20 minutes, we go and grab a coffee, we're going to get out here with 80% charge on the battery. That should be a couple of 100 miles, but it also will tell us at the moment, predicted with the power output that's coming out, 48 minutes to 100%, but this being a 150 kilowatt charger, if we suddenly get that full 150 kilowatts, that time will reduce massively. So I say, let's have a little walk around the car, perhaps go and grab a coffee, and whilst we're doing all that, we'll see if our power increases. We can see it's going up a little bit, and therefore see if the time reduces as well. Okay, so we are parked up, we are plugged in, we are being filled with electricity, so we can go and do some filming out and about on the roads here. But whilst we're plugged in, I thought I might as well give you a quick overview of the car and the model. So this, as I say, is the EV6. This is the GT-Line rear-wheel drive edition. Now that's good for a number of reasons. Firstly, because it's a little bit lighter. It also rewards you with the most range, the mileage range within the range of EV6s. It also means you get a bit of extra storage as well, because you've got no motors up front. You've got a bit of underbonnet storage here as well as the storage at the back. Now price wise, this particular model comes in at just shy of £50,000. That gives you the car as you see it here. This one does have a few extra options inside. I'll walk you and talk you through all of those in a little bit as well. But yes, so this is it. This is the Kia EV6 that we've all been looking forward to driving, that the motoring press have been raving about, and now I get to take it for a little drive and see if it's as exciting as everyone tells me. Right, I'll open up the boot, which at the moment, as you'll see, is full of absolute clutter and nonsense, all owned by me, but we've got a huge boot here. Of course, being a family car, we've got the availability to fold the seats flat and have extra storage there. But whilst I'm in the boot, I might as well show you another interesting quirk about this EV6, and this is this little contraption inside here. Now at the moment, obviously, we are plugged in, we're getting some power from the grid there, but this Kia EV6 can also act as a power station. So you can use the car to power other things. You simply plug in this lead as you would with the charger lead, but on the other end, you've got a 3-pin plug. You can plug in domestic appliances to the car, using the car as a power station. So if, for example, you were out and about doing some filming with the car and you had a particularly muddy carpet inside, you could take a vacuum cleaner, plug the vacuum cleaner into this, plug this into the car, and vacuum the car. I'm sure there are more practical, various other reasons you might want to plug something into your Kia, but at the moment I can't think of any others. But it's a clever little feature, and all the Kia EV6s have this as an option that sits in the back, ready to be used. As I said, there's also loads of storage at the front, or a little bit of storage at the front I should say, so let's go and have a look at that. So here we are up front. Now at first glance you'd be forgiven for thinking no, there's no storage there, but rest assured there is. This being the rear wheel drive edition means that there's no motors occupying space up here. So you've got an additional storage bin here, big enough to put charging cables or small carry-on luggage, bits and pieces, odds and sods that perhaps you won't need to access as frequently as the stuff you'd need in the boot. But here's the thing, you've got that enormous boot, you've got a little bit of storage here. It gets even more storage inside, so we'll show you that as well. I can't really think of an environment where you are going to run out of storage with this car. It is quite remarkable. So let's have a look inside. Right, as I said, inside the car, loads of storage. Now, as you'd expect, there is a glove box that's nice and deep. You expect to see that in every car, but you'll notice this huge floating centre console here as well, with a huge storage bin underneath, big door pockets either side, a cavernous bucket here in the middle, and there's even more in the back as well. Now, just to demonstrate just how spacious it is back here as well, that's my driving position at 6'1", and look at all that space that I have. The seats are quite low, which means that if you've got quite long legs, you might find that you're kind of up in the air a little bit, but it doesn't seem to be an issue at all. There's loads of other creature comforts back here. I've got heated seats back here so that I can enjoy the same sort of comfort that the driver and front passenger have got. There are loads of little plug-in points, USB-C charge points here that you can plug your phone into, as well as handy places like storage pockets, and even an armrest, which, if you fold forward, turns into a cup holder. So, a car that's been really well thought out. I keep referring to the fact that this is the perfect family car, but this is also the perfect car if you frequently drive around with adult-sized friends or colleagues as well, because you will fit very comfortably. Another creature comfort that is worth mentioning whilst I'm back here, sound system. You know, if you watch lots of our videos, how excited I get about sound systems, and the one that's equipped in here as an option, should point out, is the Meridian surround sound, and it is spectacular. The infotainment system is wonderfully designed. It all looks very pleasing and aesthetic. It took a little bit of getting used to, first couple of days of me driving around in the car, but once you get used to it, it all becomes very familiar. It's very kind of app-centric, so everything you control is done through apps on the screen, and of course you have got the option of using CarPlay as well. One criticism I have is that it's not wireless CarPlay. That is something I've come to expect in pretty much all new cars. You do have to physically plug the phone into the car to use CarPlay, and I've noticed as well that the car is very fussy about the type of plug that you use. But once you find the right plug, which is the good old-fashioned USB-A that you plug that into your phone, then you've got things like Apple CarPlay or Android Play and all those systems here. This is quite a clever little dashboard here as well. This is the screen and the buttons for using things like air conditioning, which is also the screen, if I hit this button here, to look after things like media. So at a glance, when you're driving on the road, you haven't got to go through complicated swipe screens and find the radio setting or the media setting, or go back to the maps. You can just do it here, including things like seeking radio stations or switching over to Bluetooth media if you're listening to something from your phone. That's all here. And then you've got a few extra buttons on this little floating console here for air-conditioned seats, heated steering wheel. That's all there. So it's been very well thought out. One other thing I'll point out actually whilst I'm here, this other feature, and again I'm going to mention over and over again in this video the fact that this is a car very much designed for families. You've got a button here called Quiet Mode. Now if you're sat in the back as a little one and parents are driving up the front, what this does, as you'll see, it will reduce the volume level to 25 in the front only. It kills all the sound in the back so that little ones can sleep soundly in the back whilst mummy and daddy are up here driving along listening to whatever they want to listen to. Lots of little features I've discovered on this in the past week that make this quite a special thing. This of course has, if I'm able to show you, I don't know if I am actually whilst it's plugged in. Let's see, yes. So this also has the really clever surround sound cameras as well. Surround cameras I should say. So you've got little cameras mounted all over the car, all around the car, so that you then have the ability to keep an eye on things like how close you are to the curb line or reversing back. You can do this whilst you're moving at a slow pace. You can go along in car parks, see that you fit into car parking spaces, and you even have the amazing ability to zoom out and zoom in. I don't know how that technology is as clever as it is, but we could roll along in a car park here whilst scrolling around to see that we're not going to bump into any curbs or other parked cars. Very, very, very clever tech in here. Quite an impressive place to be. Anyway, we're nearly charged. We have just 18 minutes remaining to 100%. We're already at 90% battery. The power is reducing. The input power has gone down to 35 watts. That tends to happen when the battery is getting up to its full point. That's so that you're not surging power in. So we've probably got time to grab one last coffee. We'll sit comfortably for a bit longer and then we'll hit the road. So, from a driving point of view, well, there's very little to moan about because, of course, it's a brand new car, and as we all now know, there's no such thing as a bad car anymore. It's just lovely. It's a really, really lovely thing. This is a video where we're not going to be doing launches or fast driving or talking through the dynamic handling, because that's not what this car is about. Kia have made a GT version of the EV6. It's a little bit more money, £62,000 on the road is what you'll be paying for one of those. And it has a very impressive 0 to 60 time and goes incredibly fast, and you can do exciting things like drifting and power sliding in it. But why? What's the point? This is a car that's more than £10,000 cheaper, has vastly more range, is just as comfortable. Well, in fact, it's more comfortable because it doesn't have stiff, sporty suspension, and in my opinion, is all the car you'd ever need. It ticks every single box that you would want from an everyday car, a family car, a car that you can do long distance driving in with a bit of journey planning to make sure you're plugged in the right places and getting the appropriate charges. And of course, it's a car that's packed with creature comforts as well. And it's the cheap one. But the car does come with a few comfort features, some bits and pieces to help you as the driver relax, and that includes things like active cruise control, which uses the radar system. You set the cruise to a speed you want to go, and the car will maintain that speed and then lock on to the car ahead of you. So in fact, we're at the moment, for example, on a 50 mile per hour road. If I wanted to, I could set the cruise control to 80 miles an hour, and what it would do is match the speed of the car in front and maintain that speed. It also has things like lane departure assist and steering assist, which is the clever system where, using cameras and radar systems on the front of the car will help me keep into the lane and even give a little bit of steering input for me as well, which is a great feature, especially on long drives. Adds to the relaxation of driving because you're not constantly having to make micro adjustments. The one thing I will say though with the steering assist is that it's not perfect, and by that what I mean is, especially on the motorways, I've noticed I actually have to end up turning it off, because what it's constantly doing is making really tiny micro adjustments to the steering wheel, which can leave you feeling a little bit seasick. I wasn't sure what was happening at first until I noticed that the steering wheel was just ever so slightly rocking from left to right, and all it's doing is it's keeping itself in lane. But that did make me feel a bit sick, so I ended up turning that off. And my only complaint about the cruise control system is, of course, that radar system, which means there is no other way of using cruise control other than the radar system. That doesn't come without some faults. I've noticed that, especially when driving on the motorway, despite the fact that you've got the luxury of being able to adjust the distance that the cars will follow, it's even at the lowest gap, the smallest distance, it's still big enough of a gap for other drivers to squeeze in, which of course then makes the radar system have a bit of a panic, applies the brakes, and then slows you down. I haven't yet found a way to use the cruise control without that being a bit of an annoyance on motorways, so I have found myself a few times turning the cruise control off, which is something I usually take advantage of on a motorway, and driving just with the pedals. Now this is a clever system as well. Blind spot cameras. This is a car that has functional wing mirrors with glass, as you would expect to see, but there are also tiny little bullet cameras on the bottom of the wing mirrors, which means that the car gives you a little view on the dashboard of what's happening just behind you, and that's really handy for changing lanes because it fills that void of a blind spot, but also for things like parking. If you're indicating whilst parking, you get a really nice view of the curbside right here on the dashboard without having to adjust mirrors down or try and look around like that. It all just gets shown here, and that's a really, really clever feature. I've not seen that on many other cars. The only gripe with it is if you are driving in pouring rain, the camera location is exactly where the water will gather as it's rolling off the wing mirrors, which means that you get a bit of a distorted view in the rain, but otherwise fantastic system, and I wish lots of other cars would start implicating that. Other features worth talking through are, confusingly, paddles on the steering wheel. Of course, this is an EV, so it has one drive gear. There's no need to shift through gears going up or down, but what these paddles do is I can increase or reduce the amount of regenerative braking that the car does, meaning that I can keep pushing the up paddle and I get maximum kinetic energy. If I lift off the throttle, the car will continue to roll along as you would expect it to, as you would expect other cars to. If I pull the paddles back, then what it does is it turns on what's called an I pedal, and that means that I can drive the car with just one pedal. I can accelerate with my accelerator pedal, as you would expect, and when I want to slow down, I simply lift off the throttle and the car slows down, and that will bring the car to an exact stop. So you can, in theory, drive the car with just the accelerator pedal. Obviously, if a car were to pull out or you needed to slow down very quickly, you can hit the brakes and the car will slow down. But otherwise, just like now, I'm about to overtake a cyclist, I'm just lifting off the throttle, the car slows down for me, plenty of space to pass, and look, when I indicate left, I can see that I've gone past the cyclist thanks to the little camera. Carry on, easy as that. Now, I did mention before that this isn't the fast version, it's not the GT version, but it is still pokey enough. It's coming in at around 230 brake horsepower. That's the kind of equivalent value that comes through from the kilowatt hours power that we're now getting referred to in EVs. But that's plenty enough. I haven't felt at any point that the car needs more power. It will still accelerate from 0 to 60 in about 7 seconds, but again, you don't need it, in my opinion. You don't need the car to be any faster than that. It kind of fulfills every element that you would need from the car. It's perfectly powered for its size and weight, and again, my advice to you is if you're thinking about buying one, is spend less. Get the cheaper one, get the rear-wheel drive one. More range, more comfort, lower price, perfect car. Well, there we go. I mean, I opened this video with not many expectations at all. People explained to me before I drove the car that I was going to love it and that it's perhaps the best EV on the market, and I can kind of see the point. This is the first Kia that we've ever driven at Driven, and well, the benchmark is really high. I've had loads of friends in the week that I've been driving this car, journo friends, saying, get a go in the GT, get a go in the fast one. But my response to them is, what's the point? This car, in this spec, at this price point, is all you'd ever need from an EV6. The good range, the comfortable assisted cruise control, the heated seats, all the gadgets, the amazing sound system. What more could you want? I've been so impressed with this thing. We've even managed to get it a bit muddy. The Kia EV6, it gets a massive thumbs up from us. So much more than we ever expected it to be. And I'm not sure we need to drive the GT at all. For now, I'm going to say thank you so much for watching. As you might have picked up, we're in quite a cold and windy location here, so I'm going to try and wrap up as quickly as I can. But thank you so much for watching this video. I know that it's something a bit different from usual. It's not the noisy, shouty, loud stuff, but it's a car that we've really wanted to have it going, and a really huge thanks to Kia for letting us have the car for a week or so. Don't forget, you can see everything that we do, including written articles, and there will be a written article featuring this Kia EV6. You can see that on our website at drivenchat.com, and there you can also see our entire back catalogue of podcasts and videos and all the rest of the written articles, and lots more, like additional photographs and video features there too. So do check out the website. For now, I will say thank you ever so much for watching. If you are watching us on YouTube, do us a solid, hit that subscribe button and that little bell. There are plenty more videos like this one and more exciting adventures, supercars, hypercars, classic cars, EV cars, you name it, it is all coming. So subscribe now, get in there like one of the early ones, and come along for the ride. Thank you so much for watching. See you again soon.